Okay, we are back. You have pressed play and we are continuing. This is to wrap up our presentation on assessment and data in the ELAR classroom. I wanted to bring you back full circle to this year and just show you the alignment of what we've been doing. So our focus this year for 2020-2021 has been quality Tier 1 instruction through the lens of assessment, really beefing up the Tier 1 instruction. So we've done that from the beginning, and I'd want you to realize that if you can kind of trust in that process and stay the course, that everything has been super tight on purpose. All the summer curriculum writing and the tightening of the alignment of the curriculum assessment instruction triangle there, that was rolled out in the district-wide day with our new pacing tools and how that worked. And then that was part of October IGT. And moving forward, I'm sorry, that was in August. And then moving forward, our October IGT was a bit of a preview about the planning process. But then in November, we broke it down again a little more tightly for the teachers who were encountering that. Plus, we added some co-seating tips and workshop in the workshop model. And now we're here today at the November IGT, where the lens of assessment to improve Tier 1 instruction is what we're focusing on. So it's not just collecting data for data's sake and not just waiting for outside data, but actually having an ongoing, how do I know students are growing as readers and writers in my classroom, really drive Tier 1 instruction. And what's beautiful about that is we have that in our performance assessments already laid out really well for us. So this is the link. These are the links to the district-wide day presentation. So I want to make sure that you have access to those. Remember, the main focus was that planning, really that 3-step process for teachers in elementary. And it's really the same 3-step process for junior high and high school. It's just we watched a preview first in junior high and high school and then come back to it after we've done our IFD planning. So that is important and great information. And so also the last part of each of these, that co-seating tips, is a separate video. So to tie it all together for us before we head out is really looking at now, if our goal is to really have that reflection on our process before we even dig down deep into the IM analysis, that's what's going to drive us to that data-informed targeted instruction even in our classroom. So we can do that through spiraling the unit essential standards. You can do that in any component of the workshop, whether that be a read aloud or a shared reading for elementary, or a mini lesson if it's junior high or high school, if it's a whole class, or it could be a small group. But then also in the co-seated situation, you can do it during your workshop warm-up where you're admitting the students who are in the waiting room, who are your virtual kids. You can definitely spiral in one of your standards. So this is a quick grade 3 example that we already had actually right here. So if you notice very briefly, it's just here's the text they had used the day before that the teacher had copied in a slide. This is a benchmark mentor text. And then teacher has here readers. Yesterday we learned about conflict and how that affects the plot. Look back at our mentor text from yesterday and answer the following question, which is really a lead statement. It's important to develop and apply it because it's where the conflict, ... what. And they're supposed to write about what happens to conflict. So the idea here was that the students would make a copy of the slide. Obviously in Google Classroom, you can go ahead and assign the slide to them and have it ready. And that way you can see what they write. And that's a quick assessment of their understanding of that conflict and how it develops the plot. And remember, that was a 3rd grade sample. You can also provide additional practice and check for transfer through IXL. That's why getting the diagnostic done is so important, so that you have a really informed understanding of your students' levels and their skills. But you can use that, the skill gap, which is by the diagnostic, or the essential standards of the unit. You can assign to all students and see how they do. And remember, you have other skill plans that you can assign as well. But that is perfect for additional practice and check for transfer. And if you're wondering how that fits, well, how does that fit in the workshop model? We went into that when we were sharing about co-seating tips and really looking at scheduling every minute of your time with your students. And that it's a good reminder to remind everybody that 90 minutes is really like 2 classes. So it's going to be a reading workshop and a writing workshop, especially if you get into junior high and high school. So it's important to know that we laid out a schedule there in the district-wide day videos where it shows that you can take part of your independent reading or writing initially to get them to practice on IXL or to get them to use MemBean in junior high or in literacy essentials until they know what they're doing on it, and you know how to then check and transfer, and then that can be rolled out. That's a great piece that can be done outside of class or a transfer from reading to writing or writing to reading workshop. I mean, that's how that can work. So check the district-wide day videos out for that, the last portion. And then, of course, a small group that can happen in your class or one-to-one where you model and teach the standard that you're working on that you need to spiral back in, or you model and, or you can have them practice on IXL and then have them come in a small group and then check to see if they can transfer the skills they've been working on. So you can go either model, then IXL, or IXL, then transfer, or both. And it's really powerful that way. But they definitely need teacher interaction because we know that just sitting kids on a computer is not going to be effective unless we're actually using what they're doing as part of what we're using when we're teaching and when we're checking for transfer. So here are we're at the end of the presentation, and here are some action items. We need you to clearly communicate some things back to your campus. What are your takeaways for today? So make sure with your leadership team, your teachers, how are you going to do that? When are you going to do it? And how will you prioritize and chunk? Because there's a lot of information here. So as a reminder in the communication, let me move on. Communicate with your staff and make a plan. Now, application is about you. Watch your grade level videos from district-wide day if you haven't, or the last IGT if you haven't. If you have skipped those are super important. We had a lot of teachers and some coaches even say to us after the district-wide day who are teaching trust schools that said it made so much more sense to use the planning process we shared because that's what is necessary to focus and then have your assessments completely aligned with what's being taught. So make sure you're watching these, and that way you'll be able to support your teachers as well. And then I need you to make sure you are doing your own learning about IXL MemBean. And we're more than happy to set something up for you, but we have a plethora of resources with short videos and long webinars or an hour webinar that can help. So if you're wondering where that is, there's a couple things on our professional learning. If you click here, I'll take you there, and you can click on the MemBean series to learn more about that, or you can click also on the IXL offering that happened for fall. I also linked back on that IXL slide. The icon itself, the logo itself, is linked to a slideshow that's set up like a notebook that has a lot of resources in it about IXL. So you can go back and watch that and click through the things that you like to learn, because there's in the back, for instance, as a resource or how to get the diagnostic, which is really just assigning it. You're not actually doing anything. But then what to do with the diagnostic next is also part of that. So that's important. Another piece I want to remind you before we move into the expectations is down here we have our PLC schedule that we have created with our sixth grade teachers that is going really well. And we do that every Tuesday at 3:45. It's a virtual PLC. And then we started a couple weeks ago a third grade PLC, and it is on Wednesdays, and we changed the time to 3:30, teacher request. And we are about to add in this week, fourth grade will be meeting on Mondays at 3:45. And then the alternating week is fifth grade. So we'll start that after Thanksgiving. And we will start that with fifth grade. So I'm telling you that because if your teachers are still struggling and you are like, I'm not exactly sure what to do or how to support, they need to come to the PLCs. They will get immense support. Or you come to that PLC and learn and then take it back to your campus. But that is a way that we have designed to support you. Right now, we're only doing those in elementary. We started it out with our sixth grade, and we're thinking about fourth and fifth and some of our third who don't have a team. So we wanted to provide that for them. But if this is something that would be beneficial for secondary, then please let us know on the Padlet. We would love to be able to form something for you. So then after you've thought about how you're going to communicate back, and you've committed to some learning so that you are fully knowledgeable so you can support your teachers. The expectation is that you will continue to support the teachers as they implement the planning process. That's why you need to know it. And that you'll facilitate teacher reflection on their practice, which includes that teaching, planning, assessing. So use the QSA data to do that. Use your map results to do that. But it's intentional reflection to then make those minor adjustments and refinements that will improve Tier 1 instruction. And then we also expect, as a member of your leadership team and as a member of the district instructional growth team, that you will support implementation of IXL and NIMBY if it applies to you. So those are some of your next steps to be thinking about. We will be meeting on November 12th as an hour meeting for elementary, junior high, and high school. And here's the schedule and here's the Zoom. So we will be going over some of those pieces. We will go a little bit more into QSA data in that how Performance Matters collects it. Sometimes it can throw your numbers off. I want to make sure that you guys are aware of what that really looks like. And how to look at the writing, for instance, and not let the percentages skew your data, analysis, but actually inform it. So we'll go over that a little bit more, and then we'll get into this lead forward reading snapshot is something fundamental when you're looking at students who didn't do well in a certain area. We need to make sure we're looking at this to inform our instruction. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to end with the other Q&A that you've had in your Padlet. So you will be joining us, and there's your times. I would like you, before you come, to watch this very short video from Lead Forward. It actually, if you started at 3:01, that's when it brings up English Language Arts and Reading, and it's about 5 minutes. I think it's just over 5 minutes, but it is so informative about the revised snapshot and the reading one in particular. You'll notice the progression of skills because of our process content. And you'll notice that, and then we'll go over it in more detail at our Zoom meeting. That is it for us. Thank you so much for your time. If you will click on your ticket out and complete that, that will be your ending piece for today. And I want to thank you yet again for everything you do every day to support teachers and students at your campus. We are here to support you. We want all of our students, or each student, to see himself or herself as a reader, writer, thinker, and therefore feel empowered. That's our goal. So we appreciate you in supporting that goal at your campus, and we will see you on Thursday. I'm going to go ahead and end the show.